Here we are in mid-May on Cape Cod and still waiting break in the weather. This sucks. Perfect metaphor for this bullshit in Iran. Still waiting for a break in that nonsense as well. It's either going to come in the next few days. Things are going to go in a different direction. It is, I think, beyond doubt that China triggered some kind of shift in the Iranian approach last week. There were several iterations in which the U.S. and Iran exchanged some kind of negotiation documents. We can infer from that that while we have no idea how close they got, they were getting closer, not further apart. Until Iranian Foreign Minister Arachi went to Beijing last Tuesday, and then they were supposed to return their draft on Thursday, and they dicked around. On Saturday, a finance ministry spokesman said, we'll get to it when we get to it, basically. They were being real pricks. And the draft they returned was basically an FU by all accounts. Things like, drop all the sanctions and unfreeze our funds before we'll talk about the nukes, and we control the Strait of Hormuz. So it wasn't an iteration of negotiations. It was a exit from the table, basically. As President Trump said, it was garbage. He said, I didn't even finish reading it. So this was a very clear signal that we're not talking until you go talk to the Chinese. The Iranian ambassador to China said very clearly, we think China can represent our interests from a great power perspective. So they very clearly have given the Chinese some leeway to negotiate something. I don't know what China and Iran are up to. I don't think it makes sense for China to, go to the mattresses for Iran on this. They get a lot of oil, much more from the rest of the GCC than they do from Iran. And I don't think they're ready for an all-out sanctions war with the U.S. either. That will be inevitable if the Iran-U.S. conflict is not resolved. So I think China's going to put together some kind of deal. I think they're going to try to create a chit for themselves. Bill O'Reilly last night said he talked to Chinese sources who said that there's some kind of deal in the works for China to get Iran back to the table in a more favorable attitude in exchange for some movement on the U.S. rhetorical stance towards Taiwan. Now, Bill O'Reilly probably doesn't have any contacts in China. I'd be shocked if he had any sources in China. Why would he? Where his sources are, he's close personal friends with Donald Trump for 35 years. And I don't think he would just be making this up, frankly, because it's too esoteric for him to even think of out of the blue. Somebody told him this, maybe Trump himself. So I think China's stuck their nose in this. I do expect Iran will be coming back to the table. I don't think we'll get an announcement out of the Beijing meeting on this. I think we'll have some indication that both parties agreed that talks need to continue, and then some sign from Iran that they're ready to go back to the table. And then the Taiwan give back from Trump might not come up front either, because it looks too much like a quid pro quo. So this could all be backroom bullshit, but we'll find out when we get some word as to whether these talks are back together after whatever happens in Beijing happens. Now, there's an alternate scenario that I discount, which is China's ready to have an all-out war with the U.S. for global hegemony and say, you know what, we're backing the Iranians. We think they should have tolls in the Strait, even though apparently a State Department source today was reported as saying China has told Rubio they agree, no tolls. But let's say China says, we're defending Iran all in, we're backing them, F you and your sanctions, we'll buy every barrel of oil from Iran that can get to us. What are you going to do? And, then the U.S. would have to sanction Chinese banks, or Trump would commit the ultimate taco that would be the end of U.S. hegemony and his legacy and his presidency. So I don't think China's ready to go all in like that. It would be breaking a multi-year pattern of biding their time and waiting for what they see as the sort of inevitable decline of the West. So I don't think China's going to go all in, but they have definitely stuck their nose in this U.S.-Iran deal in a big way, and it's going to break things one way or the other next week. Because if these Beijing meetings don't push Iran back to the table, then we're back into some kind of kinetic conflict, most likely, whether it's just a naval battle to try to move things through the strait, or another decapitation strike or who knows what, that's going to be a very real risk, and markets will tank if the risk of widespread disruption to Gulf infrastructure comes back on the table. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it will, but we're at a crossroads here. Next few days going to be very important to watch these signals out of Beijing. Good luck.